Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I am here with another monthly reading wrap up, this time for the month of September. This was quite the reading month for me. I feel like I got a lot of reading done and a lot of good books, a lot of not so good books. Several of these are in videos that are either out or upcoming, so I might not go so in depth on some of the books, but yeah, let's just dive right into the first things that I finished. I'm just gonna go in order of what I finished reading. And that means that we are starting with The Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi wa Thiong'o. This one was the first book that I read for my East African authors video, which just barely went up. It's the one right before this. So if you haven't watched that, go check it out. I go much more in depth with my thoughts there. Unfortunately, this one was a 2.75 for me. It's a very big book. It is a magical realism, political satire, something along those lines. Really hard to describe what this would classify as, but it's something like that. Basically, you're following all of these characters in this fictional African country that has this dictator that is just crazy and all these wild things happen. I don't know that magical realism is the thing for me. I love fantasy, but magical realism tends to be less enjoyable in my opinion. This one just had too many things going on. I didn't understand what the point was at the end of the book. Like, it felt like there should be some big takeaway, like Aesop fables, where you should have like some key thing at the end that you learned, and I just don't get what it was supposed to be for this book, so that made it rough. There were definitely parts of this book that really dragged. There were parts that were fun. You must suspend your disbelief for a bit because there's some weird stuff. The storytelling is very interesting, very much so following like traditional storytelling patterns more so than like a Western to 3-act story arc type of thing. Lots of hyperbole, lots of interesting things that feel a little bit like an old man telling you a story by the fire. So yeah, not my favorite. You might want to give it a try. It's a book that I can see how some people might really enjoy it, but it just wasn't really for me. Then the second book that I read in that video was Deranged as I Am by Ali Zamar, translated by Alice Banks. This one's a nice little tiny short one, and I gave this one 2 stars. Again, this is in my Eastern African authors video if you want more detailed thoughts. But basically, I didn't like the basis of the plot. You're following this dock worker and he runs into this woman who's basically trying to get to cheat on her husband with him, but he doesn't want any part of it, and then it just becomes this like awkward, she's like trying to force herself on him, and that's like the entirety of the plot, and it just is kind of uncomfortable and I didn't enjoy it. So I don't need to say much more about this tiny little book. I don't recommend it. And we'll end it at that. By the time I got done with those 2 books, I needed a break from filming for that video because I just was starting to slump out a little bit, so I picked up my go-to whenever I feel like I'm getting into a book slump, Agatha Christie. This one is the Big 4. This is number 5, annoyingly, in the Hercule Poirot books. It would be much more satisfying if this was book 4. Basically, this guy shows up at Poirot's house and then collapses in his bedroom. And Poirot sets out to discover what on earth is going on. This one was fun. I gave it a 3.75. At this point, I'm just kind of being really picky with my Agatha Christie books because I'm trying to get a bit more of a ranking. Obviously, I love all of her books, except for Halloween Party. Didn't like that one. But the rest of them are really good. And so it's just a matter of trying to figure out which ones are my top recommendations. So I'm a little more picky now with my ratings on them just to try and differentiate them. Otherwise, I just give pretty much all of them 5 stars. And then, you know, it's not helpful to anyone to be like, oh, which ones were my favorites. I did feel like this one had kind of a slow part. I don't particularly love the ones where we're following from the point of view of somebody else. So like this one, you're following his friend, what's his name? Oh, Hastings. You're following his friend Hastings, and it's from like first person point of view of Hastings, which means anytime that Hastings isn't with Poirot, you're in the dark as to what's going on with Poirot. And so I don't love those the most. I like the ones where It's more like the ever-present narrator type of books, specifically when it comes to like my mysteries and stuff. I don't love when I'm being kept in the dark purely because I'm from the point of view of someone who's not totally informed. That's not my favorite thing. It's still good and I still enjoyed the book, but I don't love that as a method for trying to like keep secrets. It's not my favorite trope. And then I went back and decided to finish up my East African authors video with The Last Brother. This is by Natasha Apana and it is translated by Jeffrey Strachan. Something like that. This one is basically a World War II book, but from the perspective of Mauritius, which is an island in Eastern Africa. And it was a very fascinating read. I thought the writing was really beautiful. And I did end up giving this one 4.5 stars. So this one did really save the video for me. If you want more detailed thoughts, you can definitely go check that one out. I will say check the trigger warnings. There's definitely a lot that goes on in this book, which is understandable considering it's a World War II book, but there's stuff even beyond just your typical World War II that you might want to check up trigger warnings. But I do think this one was really well done. I would highly recommend. This is probably up there in my favorite World War II books, and I feel like I've read a decent amount, so really would recommend this one. I loved it. Okay, and then the next couple of books were involved in a reading vlog that will be coming out soon. It's not out yet, but it was just me mood reading for a week of how much I realistically read in a week while working full-time. So that will be coming up hopefully soon. I'll probably have like a vlog in between and then that video. But the first book that I read in that video was The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. This is the same author as 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and I really enjoyed this one. It basically, you're following this detective, kind of Sherlock Holmes character, and him and his partner, bodyguard dude, are going to take on this boat because the detective, whose name is Samuel Pipps, got arrested, and they are transporting him back to Amsterdam to be tried and hung for a crime that nobody's sure if he committed or not. And then you find out that there might be this like devil ghost thing on the boat that's like threatening to kill people and stuff. So it becomes very interesting of them trying to figure out what's going on with the boat, why is the detective arrested, all of this stuff. It had a fun twist at the end. I really enjoyed the whole setting of things. It's like on this boat. It's very fitting for like a transition from summer to fall. I think that this was a great one to go from summer watery themes but into spooky season. Yeah, and overall really enjoyed it. A vlog will be coming out soon with more in-depth thoughts about this one, but it was fun. I will definitely be reading all of Stuart Turton's books. I only have one more left of what he's got out so far, and I definitely need to get my hands on it soon. And then the next one I finished was A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This is my second T. Kingfisher, and she is rapidly climbing up into my auto-buy authors. I gave this one 4 stars as well. This one is basically, you have this girl who goes back to move in with her mom for a little bit, and everything just seems a little off. Her mom has completely redecorated, emptied out the house. Things just seem weird. Her mom's acting super strange, and so she's trying to figure out what is going on with her mom. And then it takes a very magical horror-y twist. I don't know that I'd say that it's necessarily a horror book, but there's definitely some horror elements going on in here. There's some fun vultures, some crazy neighbors. There's a little bit of a love interest situation that doesn't go too far. It stays very true to the mystery thriller category. It doesn't try to be a romance, which I really appreciated. And it has the funniest dry humor going on in this book that made me just really love the main character. And I quite enjoyed it. I will say lots of strong language. Definitely more of an adult book, but and I just have to say, shout out for the amount of research she had to put into this book, because there are so many technical things. The main character in this is a basically bug archaeologist, and so she's just constantly spitting out like random super specific facts about different types of bugs. And so the amount of research that had to go into this is kind of crazy. So did enjoy this one. And then the last book that I finished in September is the Books of Umber Book 2 Dragon Games. This is a middle grade fantasy book series. Oh, the sun just came out. Wow, okay. Basically, you're following the series where you have this man named Umber who his whole goal in life is to hunt down magical artifacts and stuff like that. And then you get to learn that there's some maybe more interesting things more to it than you'd originally think, and he finds in his journeys this boy named Happenstance who has no memory and has all of these interesting abilities, and so you're basically following through their adventures together. This book you start to get some more information about what Happenstance is. It takes a very dragons, there's a revolution kind of a thing involved. Lots of interesting stuff. I can't say a ton more where this is the second book in a series, but I really enjoy these. These are a reread for me if I read them as a kid, and I just highly recommend rereading your childhood favorite books because I think you'd be surprised at how many of them have interesting plots that are still good even as an adult. Okay, hopefully that lighting's a little less crazy. The sun all of a sudden came majorly into this window. But those are all of the books that I finished in September. So now I'm going to transition into my October TBR. It's officially spooky season and I'm so excited. If the weather would just cool down a little bit more, it would be perfect. But starting off for my October TBR, there are several books that I started in September but didn't fully finish. The first one being The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Stories. I read, I believe, the first 3 while it was still September in this. So it's a collection of short stories by Robert Louis Stevenson. Obviously the main one in this collection is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and then it goes through a bunch of other ones. I've read a little bit more. It is currently October 2nd when I'm filming this, so I'm pretty far through it. I have like 1.5 short stories left, so I'm not going to give you my thoughts now because I haven't fully finished the whole collection. Some of them I've liked a lot more than others. Definitely at the end of October, watch for a wrap-up. I did give my thoughts on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the reading vlog that will be coming out soon, so keep an eye out for the videos upcoming if you want to see my thoughts on all of the short stories in this collection. And then you will see in a vlog very soon, but I spent a lot of time driving to and from Boise this last week of September into October, and so I did listen to a new audiobook. I started listening to book 3 in the Books of Umber. This is The End of Time. I can't say a ton because it is the end of a series, but I have listened to a little over half of this. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to finish listening to it or if I'm going to just read the rest of it. We'll see, but I am going to be finishing this up this month. Having fun, getting a lot of answers in this book so far, so I'm very excited for this one. Okay, and then the next one I just barely started yesterday, so this one is fully in October, but currently in the middle of reading Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is book 2 in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I really enjoyed the first one and I was looking forward to getting into this one. It sounds like we are picking up after the case that she does in the first one, and then you're kind of seeing some of the fallout of what happened, and it sounds like she might be picking up a new case. And I just have to say I love how floppy this book is. It's so nice. The first one I actually got secondhand, so it is not nice and floppy, but the ones that they are putting out now are very floppy. That being said, I do hate that they've been putting these little stickers, not stickers, fake stickers that you can't take them off, of the reappearance of Rachel Price. Like, why? Anyways, annoying. But that one's on the list. And then getting fully into spooky season, I have 2 classics that I meant to read last year and then never got around to, so this year I am making them happen. The first one is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Obviously, can you get more classic Halloween than this? I definitely want to read this as we're getting into Halloween. I'm super excited about it. Don't need to say a ton about that one. And then the other classic that I'm hoping to get to is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Another just, I can't believe I haven't read it yet, and the perfect time is in October as we're getting ready for Halloween. So really excited for those 2 to finally check those off my list. And then the next book on my TBR is actually an audiobook, and that is Stay in the Light by A.M. Shine. This is the sequel to The Watchers, which I listened to not long ago, and I actually really enjoyed it. I will say lots of swearing. They are Irish, so expect some strong language. This is probably decently solidly into the horror category, but I'm very intrigued to see where they go from how that book ended. So very interested in this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to listen to it as an audiobook or if I'm going to actually buy it. We'll see. But it comes out on the 22nd, so very close to Halloween. It'd be a perfect horror to pick up then. And the last book that is on my October TBR is And Then There Were Four by Nancy Werlin. This one's super random. I don't know a ton about it. I found it at a library sale and it just looked interesting, but it basically sounds like it's about 5 high school students who are brought together under mysterious circumstances. You've got kind of all your classic stereotypes. And then the roof of their meeting place collapses. They just barely make it out. A second freak accident happens. And then according to the little thing on the flap, soon a freak accident does claim the life of one of them, and little by little they piece together a shocking but plausible theory that their parents are working together to kill them all. So that sounded interesting to me. It's definitely a YA mystery thriller, so just perfect for Halloween time. I think this will just be a very fun, solid, get me into the spooky fall season, and check off a lot of my overall fall TBR, because all of these are actually on my fall TBR. So really making my way through that. I'm sticking to it pretty well, but yeah. This is a lot of reading. It is definitely a very big stack of books, but several of these I am already partially through, if not almost finished with, so it's not as crazy as it looks, except that Frankenstein and Dracula are classics and sometimes those are a little bit slower, but hopefully those ones will be faster since they're fun. But anyways, that's what I read in September and what I'm hoping to read in October. If you've read any of these books and have thoughts, suggestions, anything like that, please let me know down below. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.